Hey, 420 investors. I'm really happy to have with me here today Chris Bunka, the CEO of Lexaria Energy, and John Doherty, who I believe is president. We'll find out his exact title in just a minute. I should have known that. But he's a recent addition to the team. Before I introduce them and get into this Q&A session, I want to take just a minute to remind everybody that I added Lexaria, symbol LXRP, to the focus list earlier this week. I sent out a report kind of explaining my reasons for adding it. I'm sharing this with the general public for a number of reasons, and with that in mind, I want to tell everybody at present, although I have ratings on LXRP on both fundamental, technical, and valuation, it is not included in any formal models portfolios at this time, and so I have no official position. I also want to say that the company has a long trading history. We've been talking about this since November. I had the pleasure of running into Chris at the MJ Business Daily conference in Las Vegas and noticed a real inflection in the company. And I've been watching this play out now for, I guess, 9 months, long enough to have a baby. And it's a very interesting story. So with that in mind, I want to introduce Chris and John. And why don't you start, Chris, by telling us a little bit about your background, and then we'll let John do the same.
Okay. Thank you so much, Alan. So yeah, my name's Chris Bunka. I'm the CEO of Lexaria. And my background, well, is really a diverse entrepreneur. So I've been involved in construction and real estate in the 1980s, oil and gas in the 1990s and early 2000s, and got into the marijuana industry first as an investor a couple of years ago in another company, and then as I was watching things unfold and seeing the potential, and frankly seeing the potential to do things well, I got more and more involved, and we brought Lexaria full circle into the medical marijuana and legal marijuana sectors. So diverse sector, lots of capital raising, lots of corporate management. I'm sad to say a 10-year history of managing public companies, because that's a big burden, but I'm used to it. So that's my background.
And what about you, John?
Thank you, Alan. Yes, so again, it's John Doherty. I'm president of the company, recently joined in March of this year. My background, I've mainly worked in the pharma and biotech sectors for about 20 years. Got a lot of experience with large multinationals as well as small cap startup biotech companies. My experience has principally been in developing drug delivery systems, in particular lipid-based delivery systems, which we'll talk about a bit today, for challenging molecules, with a focus ranging from cancer drugs to drugs for neurodegenerative disease. I came to Lexaria because of my fascination with our delivery technology, and really a belief that cannabidiol can help millions of people around the world improve their health and wellness. And just as a side note, I do own and operate a successful fitness center together with my wife, so I have an appreciation for improving health and wellness in our community.
Excellent. And you're in Toronto, if I recall?
Yeah, I'm just outside the city of Toronto, northeast of Toronto. Got it.
And before I go on any further, we're going to talk about kind of the history of Lexaria and then what's going on now. But I want to point out one of the most fascinating parts of the story, and let's just get this out of the way right now, Chris. You own a bunch of shares you've been buying on the open market. Can you just talk about that briefly before we get into the rest of the interview?
I knew it would come up sooner or later. I didn't know it would come up this soon, but yeah. So, look, I am the largest. I mean, I'm the CEO and chairman of the company. I'm also the largest shareholder of the company, and good, bad, or otherwise, my wife would often say it's bad. I just have some sort of out-of-date, old-fashioned ideas about how that should be done. And the way I don't think it should be done, I do not think it should be done, is through like gifts of shares and all these crazy things that you see happen out there. So the vast majority of the shares that I own in this company, I've bought on the open market just like anybody else would, Alan. And I really, I owned over 4 million shares when we were still an oil and gas company. We'll get into that in a minute. But when we made the change and sold the oil field and we had money in the bank and we bought the technology, the patents pending, I was getting more and more excited. So starting in November of 2014, carrying through to the present day, not today, but this month, I've been buying shares in the open market. And I bought about 5 million, a little over 5 million shares. I don't know precisely. At prices from roughly a nickel to roughly the low 20s, I guess. And I've bought it simply because when I look around me at the sector and I look around me at my other investment choices, for me, for my own personal risk profile, etc., I don't see anything better than what I see with what we're trying to do. And I hope I'll be able to convey the message today that I think our potential is just so great that I just simply wanted to own more than I did. I didn't want to do it in some weird kind of backhanded fashion, so I just thought the best way to do it is just do it publicly right in the market.
Well, I'm glad we got that out, because now anybody that's listening will want to know why you're so excited. So let's get into the bulk of this. And I want to start off, as you said, Lexaria has been trading as a public company, I think for 10 years or almost 10 years. And it's been through a lot of iterations. Can you run us through that quickly?
Yeah, very quickly. So we have been around a long time. So one of the things you should not be concerned about is we're not one of these, shell companies that just goes public for the purpose of throwing a bunch of stock at people and then everybody runs away. We've been public for roughly a decade in the United States. We're fully reporting, always have been. We've never been a shell company. We've never been on the pink sheets. We've always been on the OTC. We're on the OTC QB right now. In addition to that, roughly 5 years ago, we were listed on the Canadian Securities Exchange. We're also fully compliant and fully reporting in Canada with the securities regulators up there. So, we take our reporting regimen pretty seriously in both countries. We were incorporated as an oil and gas company. We went out, we actually made some natural gas discoveries in 2005, 2006. We made an oil field discovery in 2006, 2007. We produced, we had revenue, little company, really wasn't going anywhere. And we made the decision at the board level a couple of years ago, in fact, that we needed to sell that field and get into something that had better potential. Because we were really nervous, quite frankly, about the sustainability of energy prices. And we started that sales process a few months after that. It took over a year to actually complete. It was not easy. We actually finally signed the last documents and closed everything in the October through December period of 2014. I had the money in the bank, and it was done. So we were fortunate that way, Alan, because we managed to sell it and get a reasonable dollar for it. After we paid down the bank lines and everything else that you would have with an operating company, we had about $1 million left over, and that's what we used to launch ourselves in this business. So that's the old history of the company. We were oil and gas, and then we were this. We've never done anything else.
Well, actually, in the middle of this and that is the MMPR application where you owned a 49% stake in the Burlington facility. Why don't you run through that real quick?
Fair enough. So our first entry into the legal marijuana sector was we had 49% interest in a license application for in Canada, in Burlington, Ontario, and 51% holder was Enertopia, as is pretty well known. And we were hopeful for getting that license through. When we initially submitted all the paperwork in the spring of 2014, we were hopeful that by the end of 2014 or certainly early 2015, we would be at the ready to build stage. And Health Canada just moves in its own way, and it was a slow process, didn't seem to be going anywhere, and certainly the economics in Canada didn't seem to be improving at all. So we managed to sell that license application just a short while ago, a couple of months back. We didn't get a lot for it. We didn't really expect to because it's just an application. But we did the best we could, and what that includes is if that license application is awarded to the new owners, we do have a pretty reasonable a revenue stream of payments, cash payments, that would come our way. So if that application turns into an actual granted license, we will get all of our money out of it and then some, quite a bit more, 2 to 3 times more that we ever put into it. So so that's how that went. We tried it. It didn't really go that far, and quite frankly, internally was really becoming overshadowed by the patent pending technology, the delivery of these molecules and stuff. So our focus has really shifted on the things that we think are the strongest parts of the company, which is the delivery mechanism.
Right. When I ran into you in November, all these things were kind of coming together, and I guess not surprisingly, given that you're a large shareholder, you looked at the opportunity set and you decided to move the company away from things that didn't look too promising and towards Vipova. So why don't you talk about the history of Vipova, just a little bit. Some people may not even be familiar with not only what it is, but kind of the background. So why don't you just start from day one on Vipova and kind of what you were thinking and bring us up to speed.
Okay, so I'll start on kind of introducing Vipova, and then I'll let John kind of talk about it as well. And look, everybody has to be comfortable in your own skin, right? It's something I say all the time. And even when we had our MMPR license application in, one of the things in the Canadian system that made me uncomfortable personally was the fact that under the then standing Canadian law, the only way that patients could use marijuana legally in Canada was to smoke it or eat the raw flower. There was no other mechanism to deliver medical marijuana that was legal. And, with so many studies out there talking about potential harm to a young brain and stuff, we came out with a policy statement that we said, hey, if we get this license, we're not going to sell medical marijuana to young people because we think that there's some problems with that. And as a result of that, I received a number of phone calls. Some people were very angry. Some people were very happy. One of the people who phoned me was a lady from Florida. And she phoned to say, wow, I read this, and we think this is really responsible and good for you. And I said, well, thank you very much. Well, her name was Michelle Riello, and it turned out that she was the co-founder of the tea company. And she was the co-patent holder of the technology that, has really set us along. So that phone call came from our policy, and that phone call developed into a series of meetings and discussions, and we ended up buying 51% of the company with an option to buy another 24%, so we can go to 75%, and we do intend to exercise that option. And for that, we gained her years of tinkering with technology and her expertise, and launched the tea company. When we launched the tea company, we realized we were going to need to do a lot of work that regular entrepreneurs don't always know. So we had to do trademark things. We had to do a lot of work with the patents. We've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars since then in recipe development, laboratory testing, patent work, trademark work, branding, advertising, all sorts of stuff. So all of those things are going on. And as I've alluded, we've become really, really excited about the delivery mechanism, about the technology, because it is different. And I'd like to ask John maybe to kind of introduce what that is and why we are really, I don't want to put words in your mouth, John, but I'll just say for myself why I am so excited about what we have and how I think it can really change not just not just the prospects for our company, and frankly, not just the prospects for our industry, although it is both of those things. I think it can change the whole world. I think we can really help people get a lot healthier. This is, in my opinion, a big deal. But John, why don't you talk about kind of what the basis is of this whole technology?
Sure thing, Chris. So at the outset, I said that my background is in lipid-based delivery systems, and I'll take a few minutes now just to shed some light on that. What was amazing about the technology and the patent-pending applications that are related thereto that Michelle and Marion brought forth was a lipid-based delivery system to allow the delivery of molecules such as cannabidiol, which is a cannabinoid, which we can find in hemp or even marijuana for that matter, into the body through the GI system that is otherwise very, very difficult to do. So if you look a little bit at the scientific literature and kind of understand the background, traditionally we know that people who are seeking cannabinoid therapy, medically or otherwise, have usually gravitated towards smoking. And the reason for this is because when you smoke, say marijuana, typical cannabinoid absorption into the bloodstream through the lungs is about 30%. By comparison, most of the edible products that are on the marketplace or out there today, these can only really deliver cannabinoids into the bloodstream at about 5% absorption. So, this has really created a trend that always favors towards smoking because of the fact that that's the mainstay today to get cannabinoid therapy into the bloodstream effectively. And that's where this technology comes into place. What we have and what the inventors developed is a combination of a manufacturing process and use of certain ingredients, specifically called long-chain fatty acids, that we combine, in this case, cannabidiol or CBD, at a molecular level with our formulation. And by doing so, this basically tells the body, the stomach, the intestines, to absorb our cannabinoid as though it were the fat, in this case, the long-chain fatty acids. And by doing this, we allow the body to absorb much, much more cannabinoid through our edible format than can be achieved by simply eating cannabinoid in traditional formats that are out there today. And, of course, that has a tremendous benefit, we believe, because if it is possible to bring enough cannabinoid therapy into the bloodstream through an edible format instead of having to use the smoking format, the benefit for consumers, for public, for humankind could be tremendous to avoid the negative health consequences associated with smoking.
And you guys just released data from a in vitro study. Do you want to address that quickly?
Yeah, maybe I'll go ahead on that one. I'm very, very excited about the data we brought forth just earlier this week. What we did was we used a third-party laboratory, and what they did was they used our Vipova brand CBD fortified tea compared to concentration matched samples of cannabidiol in water and cannabidiol mixed with our black tea using our manufacturing process but not using our special excipient profile. We used a human intestinal cell line that is commercially available and well established. And what we saw was that after administering the treatment and comparing it to those two controls I just described, we were pleased to see results that exceeded our expectations with a 499% increase in CBD permeability with our product versus the baseline of CBD and water, that control I described, and a 325% increase in CBD permeability with our product over the baseline of the CBD black tea preparation that I described that did not have our excipients. So, in short, with our data that we found this week, demonstrating nearly a 5-fold improvement in absorption, that in theory approximates the absorption level I described earlier with smoking, again, without the negative health consequences associated with smoking, which is very exciting for us.
So this not only could help you sell your current products, and we're going to talk about those in a second, but opens the door to potential licensing, not only in CBD, which you tested, but potentially in other areas as well, right?
Yeah, maybe I'll take that one if that's all right. Yeah, we think so. I mean, we're really trying to build a practical corporate business model on a number of different legs. And so one of those is obviously product sales, and we'll get into what all of those products are and are planned to be. But in addition to that, because the science behind this is so strong and compelling, and the results have been so compelling, we really think that we can work in partnership with any number of existing players in the spaces. So if you look at the marijuana sector itself, there is absolutely no reason to think that we could not partner with much of the entire industry and make our technology available to them and their product lines to enhance the absorption of the cannabidiol or the THC or all of the cannabinoids that they're offering, depending on what kind of line of products they have. And there's some real benefits to that, because we all know, the whole industry knows that dosing is an important issue, and it needs to be gotten right. It's also important to realize something about, there's a subtle way of thinking about what we've achieved with this higher absorption rate. And here's what it is. Whether you're talking about a cannabinoid or a painkiller like ibuprofen or aspirin, if something is absorbing at a 5 times higher rate, then in theory at least, you could consume 1/5 of the amount and get the same amount of benefit from that payload molecule. And in our case, in the case of THC or CBD, that could have some pretty profound effects on the customer base. So, imagine now if you're consuming an edible that is, say, rated at 10 milligrams, instead consuming an edible rated at 2 milligrams and getting the same effect from it. That's pretty dramatic, and it's a pretty dramatic shift in cost for everybody, for the producers of those products as well as for the consumers of those products. And so there's a very, very compelling, strong financial or cost base argument to be made that the licensing could end up being, in fact, a more important revenue stream to us over time than our own product sales would be, because we could actually, in theory, we could sort of command a small percentage royalty off of much of the entire market sales, as opposed to fighting it out and trying to carve out a narrow niche just for ourselves. So the licensing could become a very important source of revenue for us over time.
That makes sense. Well, between now and then, though, you launched with one single product. It was black tea, and I understand now, I actually saw on the website and called the other day, you have another 8 or 9 that you've added, I think, or 7 more that you've added. Is that right?
Yeah, I'll talk about the tea and the coffee, and then, John, I'll let you introduce our bar, because that's the thing that is the most exciting thing. We are just so stoked about it. So when we met we call them the tea ladies, the ladies that invented the technology. When we met the tea ladies, that's what they had, black tea. and we ran with that. And it's been great. In fact, I was talking to my warehouse manager in the last couple of days, and she's a bit concerned that we're close to selling out of one of our initial production runs, and are we going to have enough stock? So that's a
good problem.
That's a good problem. It's the first time we had it, and don't worry if you're out there. Don't worry, we've got plenty. We'll have enough. But so we are selling the tea, but at the same time, it's black tea, and not everybody likes black tea. So just in the last, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, we introduced 6 new flavors. So things like, I won't mention them all, but things like a couple of chai teas, an Earl Grey, a decaf, breakfast tea, a green tea, just a number of different teas. All of those teas benefit from our technology. They all are infused with full spectrum hemp oil, which means we are not working, and this is important for regulatory reasons, and it's also important for people who are using it. We are not working with CBD drops, which some people are, which are just cannabidiol. We work with full-spectrum hemp oil, which means you have trace amounts of all the other cannabinoids, the terpenes, all the things that people are looking for generally when they are looking for health benefits. Trace amounts of those substances are in our full-spectrum hemp oil, and but always under the legal limits for THC. That's what allows us to sell our products today under the federal law. So that makes things a lot easier for us than, say, for a company that's only operating in, Colorado or only operating in Washington. We operate virtually on a national level, and we have for a while. So the teas are out there. We're going to have coffee and hot chocolate probably available in September. We're very excited about that. And the most exciting thing, I'm going to give this one to John. Here's a big, fat, slow pitch for you, John, because this is the best thing ever.
Great stuff. So, I want to talk a little bit about the protein energy bars that we're also launching this fall. I said at the outset that I am, as a side note, a gym owner with an appreciation for health and fitness, and I really think that introduction of a protein energy bar with all the nutritional facets that we demand from bars of that nature, but with the addition of the hemp oil-derived cannabidiol utilizing our technology, is going to be something of huge demand to the marketplace. Just by way of background, I know that athletes, fitness enthusiasts, one of the things that is always a challenge for this segment is pain, inflammation, and anxiety to a certain extent associated with training and intensity and competition. And, these things can limit or detract from the efficiency and the effectiveness of somebody's training routine. I know that, folks have a tendency to turn to prescription or over-the-counter pharmaceuticals. And these have their place. Certainly I come from a long background in developing pharma products, and I recognize that. But for many people, these are unappealing for side effects or even the idea of using them on a chronic basis is not something some people want to do. So where we're really excited is we believe a CBD fortified protein energy bar in the formats that we will be launching as a natural, well-tolerated alternative, based on the multifaceted modes of action of cannabidiol in the human body, could be something that's going to be a great alternative for fitness enthusiasts today, as opposed to going after pharmaceuticals as the way that is used today. I just want to say we're looking to get these out this fall, and I think for anyone out there listening, I'm hoping this is going to be an exciting launch for the business.
And 10 milligrams per bar, right?
Yeah, our products are formulated, with a range of cannabidiol present from the hemp oil in that sort of 9 to 12 milligram target range.
Is that going to be the 5x factor, or I guess that's already calculated in? The fact that it's, will your technology enable higher absorption, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, the same technology that's in our tea that we've demonstrated in the in vitro studies that I described briefly a moment ago. That same technology is found in the bars. So we certainly expect that users of these bars will benefit from the health effects of the CBD. Because of the fact that hemp oil-derived CBD is being delivered to them using the bioabsorption enhancing technology.
Great.
Yeah, and I'll jump in if I can as well.
Chris.
And just
go ahead.
Sorry, Alan, and just
no
say,
problem.
that is worth emphasizing that compared to the control groups that we studied in the lab, 10 milligrams in our bar is equal to 50 milligrams that's not somehow improved, if the delivery or the absorption of it is not somehow improved. So recognize that, it's like so many different things in marketing and advertising, right? People talk about horsepower or engine size or whatever in a car. This is about a lot more than just numbers. So 10 milligrams of our product is not necessarily the same as 10 milligrams of somebody else. And the last point I'd like to make is, I personally suffer from a number of food-based illnesses, and getting good food, good healthy food is a real challenge for a lot of people. And a lot of people, like John was mentioning, who are fitness enthusiasts or want to go cycling, or they work out, or they do yoga, or whatever it is, just because you can get a bar that has hemp oil in it now, or you soon will, well, that doesn't mean that we assume as a manufacturer that you want artificial ingredients and sugars and all kinds of fake stuff that's no good for you. So I want to really push this fact that these bars contain lots of protein, lots of fiber, no artificial ingredients, no added sugar, no artificial flavors, no weird colors, no preservatives. These are healthy bars that, even if they didn't have the hemp oil in them, would be almost unique in the world. But with the hemp bar, with the hemp oil, and with our process, they are truly unique in all the world. So it's a healthy food with the benefits of cannabidiol. And obviously, if we were to work with licensed partners, that cannabidiol could be swapped out for THC with those companies that are licensed to deliver that. That's why the company, from a kind of an investment point of view, becomes so attractive. We're de-risking the recipe development to the biggest extent we can, and the deliverability of the molecule, then it just comes down to, well, who wants to partner with us to go forward with these more enhanced products.
This sounds really exciting. Oh, I'm sorry, John. We're running out of time, unfortunately, I think. I want to get one last question in. Maybe that point you were going to make, you can sneak into the answer. But this has been a great scratching the surface. It sounds like a lot of promising things. But I want to leave our listeners with one last thought, which is you can have great plans, but you need to have all the elements of success. And so what I want to close up with is, what does it take for you guys to succeed, in your view?
I think it's a great question, Alan, and obviously one of the things that's on everybody's mind always these days is money. We've been fortunate in that, as I mentioned, we started with a little bit of money. We have 40 million shares roughly issued and outstanding. I'm the biggest shareholder. We talked about that. I don't want to see hundreds of millions of shares issued, and we never will have that happen, not as long as I'm at the helm. We also are not interested in issuing a lot of debt. It's too early, and could risk all of the intellectual property. So we have two practical ways of raising capital and ensuring our success. We already have an amazing intellectual team. John heads that up, along with our patent lawyer. We haven't talked about Ed, but he's an amazing PhD in the field, just amazing insights, as well as our core inventors as well. So the intellectual property development is going to continue to move forward. We're going to need to raise capital or generate capital from our product sales. And it's going to realistically be a mix of both of those things. And one of the things that we are working towards sometime relatively soon, between now and the end of the year, will be what we hope, fingers crossed and projections made kind of internally, we hope and believe will be the last time we will ever go out to accredited investors and raise capital for this company. And our expectation is that our next raise will raise sufficient capital to carry us through to cash flow positive status. And at that point, I think the world's our oyster. So I don't know, John, if you have a little bit to add to that, but that's the way I kind of see it.
Yeah, just real quickly, and I'm sensitive to our time. In addition to that, obviously with capital raise, one of the things we have said we look to do perhaps is additional testing, maybe even more advanced permeability testing, where some of the things we learned in the test tube environment could be improved upon theoretically when we move to animal testing or living creature testing to model our permeability and even possibly other facets about the technology. So that's one exciting thing that'll help us grow and advance in line with the licensing outreach, as Chris already spoke to, where we will be reaching out and looking for companies who may be interested in utilizing our technology to improve upon performance of their existing products. And that might also lead to additional testing and characterization with their molecules and our technology. So those are kind of the things I was going to add, and I'll go ahead and stop there. Thank you.
Well, this has been very fascinating. I appreciate both of you, Chris and John, spending your time, and I look forward to following the story closely, and we'll have to do this again. So thank you.
Well,